Hello, everyone, and welcome to Answer the Call. I think you could see the topic, and this week has been just basically, I think, one of the more ridiculous weeks they've ever had as far as communication, decision making, and so on. So the topic is, what are they doing? What are you doing? CIG, Star Citizen, what are you doing? Um, if you are unaware, essentially, CIG releases a new patch, but let's go back in time a little bit. Amazing communication where they say, hey, listen, we got a little issue with our database. You guys have obviously been playing through 17.1. There's a lot of problems with you guys, your money, your ships, your armors disappearing, all sorts of things, right? Hey, guys, we got to wipe, all right? Sorry, we're going to try and keep whatever we can, but we got to wipe the money. We got to wipe your purchases. Apologies. Stop there, all right? Then it is somebody is making a decision to do something, in my opinion, that is just plain stupid. And the stupid is, why are we trying to make up for something? Well, my guess is that they're worried about backlash from the community for wiping, and they wanted to try to appease and please, and they can't. And you can't please everybody, right? And I would prefer, personally, for them to please the players who would like to play the game more often, because I'm one of those players, right? But I absolutely understand why you may want to give money to a situation where you had a lot of new players join the game and then have almost immediately their account wiped, right? Not a great experience for those players. So they gave money, a lot of money by accident. There was they were supposed to give X amount and they gave 10 times that amount. Let's say somebody, made a mistake in the math, right? Something bad happened. So I had 11 million. People had 50 million. I had 11 million on this account, 17 million over here, 8 million, because I don't just play on one account. It was an insanely generous amount. They messed up. They've also communicated that 318 will probably have a wipe, right? And that means that we have like 3 to 5 months before another wipe. So in the end, giving that much money out, it's not going to have that much effect on it anyway, but they were talking about wiping with 318. So it didn't seem like that big of a deal to just keep it the way it is. So you've already made one mistake. Now they go back and decide, yeah, well, you know what, guys? We gave you too much money. So we need to rectify that. And they take the money back. But in trying to rectify taking the money back, they completely screwed everything up. And while people were playing Siege of Orison or doing other things and making money by just generally playing the game, they got their accounts reset. So you may have made 800K in a play session, and then you log back on and you have 20K. This has been a common occurrence. So not only have you screwed up once, now you've screwed up twice. Okay? And now my favorite thing is they come out with a post apologizing, which CIG almost never does. CIG never says they're sorry, never says they made a mistake. Literally never. Yeah, people were getting reset on every login. So if you even had the energy to go do it again and make the money back, you would have lost it again, right? So it's just generally an experience is not good. This is a terrible experience. They're just screwing up nonstop. Okay. Now they come up with a post apologizing, which they never do. Then in the apology, they go, yeah, we're going to give you some money back for the mistakes that we made the second time. So now they're making the same mistake a third time. Stop trying to please everybody. Just say you're sorry. be done with it. People will be over it. Like, that's it. Very quickly, because this is a long monologue, we're already at 5 minutes, is you need to focus on the in-game experience. The in-game experience was perfect. Siege of Orison gives you a lot of money. The new combat service beacons give you a lot of money. And Jumptown gives you a lot of money. If you're the CIG community team, if you're the CIG dev team, this was the simplest fucking solution you could have ever done in your entire lives. Hey, guys, I know we screwed up. Here's what you do to get your money back. Play the fucking game. Play the game. Here's all these wonderful opportunities to get your money back and get your ships very quickly at the very beginning of the wipe. I mean, guys, the balance for the combat service beacons is insane. Like 1 million credits, like an hour, it feels like. It's insane how quickly you can make money. It's so easy. So why are we complaining about the money? It's not that big of a deal, all right? Why is CIG giving out money that they don't need to do? It's not that big of a deal. And if people are upset because you got money and they took it away, you know, there's some people that are new players. They do need to be acclimated to the alpha experience that CIG provides as well. So welcome. You know, anybody who's new here, welcome, because this is what it's like. But anyway, let's go ahead and start out with our first caller and hear what the rest of the community has to say. But before we get into that, I actually want to just do a general. This is Answer the Call. This is where we do a podcast with members of the community. It's just me as the host. People from my community on Twitch or Discord or YouTube come here and they can share their opinions about whatever's going on and what the topic is. I do feel like this format is getting a little bit stale. It is quite difficult to get callers sometimes and get people excited to want to talk about a certain topic every week. Let me know some feedback down in the comments below. I also have a feedback thread for YouTube on Discord. So discord.gg/SaltEMike. I want to hear what you guys think about the podcast. I'm considering making some changes. Possible changes could be rotating hosts of like my content creator friends, and then also bringing on callers. Maybe a steady host like with me. Things like that. So just let me know what you guys would be interested in, and we'll give it a go. All right. All right. Halo Blade, welcome. How you doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
Okay. So obviously a lot's happened. 317.2 dropped. What are your feelings on the whole thing?
I mean, honestly, it's like you said this before, but I think it's kind of like ridiculous
Yeah.
that they even gave the money in the first place. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand why they would want to, kind of help out newer players, but at the same time, like you said, they have to get kind of used to the quote unquote alpha experience. I mean, it is an alpha, but like they I feel like a lot of newer players, because this is probably the best Star Citizen has ever been. They're they're not used to like the kind of scuffed nature or like the disjointed nature of it, and so they come in, feeling that hey, this is actually kind of a playable game, and then
Yeah.
when their progress gets wiped or when like some absolutely ridiculousness happens, then they're like, whoa, this is CAG's doing this for X reason, like selling ships or whatever.
Sure. I just look at it this way a little bit, right? Is I see somebody in chat saying they tried to do something nice. They absolutely tried to do something nice. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with the idea of like going, hey, here's some money. We're sorry, because the one thing I didn't say at the beginning is the wipe was premature. This was not in if you look at a game like Escape from Tarkov, wipes are part of the content of the game. This wipe was not one of those types. The game is broken. The only way to fix it is to wipe your account. So they wanted to give an apology stipend out to people to say, hey, why, like sorry about that, right? And that's fine. But the thing for me and what you said is I don't even think they need to get used to the nature of the alpha. They need to get used to the nature of CIG doing this, this like making the same mistake. So like they need to get used to CIG because it's not just the nature of an alpha. I think these guys are you have to be completely disconnected from your community to do what they did this week. I feel like.
Yeah, when I like the fact that like they like you said they have to be like whoever made the decision to roll back the money was like completely disconnected because it's like you they already mentioned that there's probably going to be a wipe for 318, right? And you've mentioned
Yeah.
it before, but it's like given that fact, why not just leave it in?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no real downside to it because at the end of the day, it's going to be reset. The only downside occurs when you try to redo that or like roll that back, and it just essentially boils down to I think CIG should have stuck with one of the two. Either decide not to give anybody any money at all, and like you said, just kind of have the people power through it or whatever,
Play the
or
game. Yeah.
just leave the money and then just I guess even if it hurts their bottom line or whatever, the CIG just sucks it up and get goodwill with the community. The only way for this situation to be bad is if they did what they did, and it's like I think I saw a comment was like snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. That's basically what they did.
Snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Yeah. It's like you mentioned earlier about the idea of they're doing this to sell ships. I can't remember. Did you say that that was like a narrative people would think, or was that a narrative that you think?
Oh no, that's a narrative people think. Like that's one
Yeah.
of the reasons, like a common narrative that they had in the past, where it's like, oh, CIG's not going to allow ship renting. Oh, CIG's not going to allow buying
Yeah.
ships. Oh, CIG's going to do X, Y, and Z. So like when I see that, I'm just like, that's. But I feel that holds no weight at all when it's
They've
been shown to not be the
consistently
case.
shown and made changes to the game that directly decentivize buying ships, I think.
Yeah, which is also why this is even more confusing because it's
Exactly.
like if the if they had like whatever for reason that showed that people having all this money like what you call it decreases CIG's profits, then it would make sense from a business point of view for them to wipe it. But it's like all the things they've shown in the past show that they don't really care about that. So like, where is this even coming from?
Yeah. I
Like,
don't know. And the one thing that I do also want to say is we absolutely cannot kill the messengers here. You cannot. The messages from Jake and Xylo less so, but Xylo's communication was, I thought, not as good, but Jake's I thought was like all he did, like we're just killing the messengers here. Both of those guys, they do not and are not in a position to make this decision. There's no way. Now, we don't know whether they agree or disagree with the decision. That's not for us to say. That's only for them to know. And somebody else is making this decision, right? That's
mhm.
it. So whoever is making this decision is either doing it for the reasons of selling ships or something like that, which I don't really agree with. I don't believe that. Or they're just so lost and disconnected in whatever sauce they're in as far as whatever work they're doing that they're worried about something. Like anytime the CIG team mentions the economy or breaking the economy, like we've had jokes about that. It has literally become a meme in our community because there is no economy to break. The only issue here is that I saw the main negative was if they gave all the money, there's one problem is you feel like any progression you could have made towards the ship, you just got it, right? And then the second part is you decentivize doing things like Jumptown. So you had a Jumptown event coming up. It was a great opportunity for people to be like, man, I need money. Let me take the risk versus reward. That's actually gameplay CIG, not giving people money so they can buy ships and experience the alpha. Like, that's just how I feel. It's insane.
Yeah, like but prior to knowing about, like, I kind of agree with you there, where it's like the only, I guess, the only logical reason would be that this is like giving people money makes them not want to actually play the game, and
Yeah.
so like prior to knowing that they're gonna reimburse people money, I was actually like super hyped to for like all the events because it's like perfect. It's like you have your PvE event where you kind of build up money to maybe get a ship or get like armor or whatever, and then you have Jump Town right after. So it's like you have your farming phase, and then you have like the actual kind of like main event thing with Jump
Yeah.
Town and going crazy. I'm just like, oh, this is sick. And then
Yep.
come to find out that everybody has all the money they need. I'm just like, oh, okay, I guess. And like you were mentioning before, where you were like, oh, security security port Korea is going to be like on fire. I'm just like, oh yeah, that's going to be cool because people are going to have to get all this stuff they need over there. But now it's kind of also not really a thing.
Yeah. It just it makes no sense. It's like how at this point can we be confident in the decision making from like a general like management standpoint to making the game interesting and fun if you are directly making decisions that negative like immediately take the interesting and fun out of the game to screwing it up in the first place and not testing it when you were on the PTU for a month straight. You had a month to test the stipend and you never fucking did it. Not once did you test giving money out in a server where the money doesn't matter. Sorry for yelling in your ear.
No, you're fine. Yeah, that's actually
How?
something I never considered. Like, I don't know, this whole like 317 in general, from like to point one to now, has just been like a hot mess. I really just want to like get this patch cycle out and like through, because this is, I don't know, this I'm probably not gonna play this cycle at all because it's just, I don't know, I have no motivation to.
People just feel like really frustrated by it. But like it just like I have no whoever whatever the dev that screwed this the money up. Shit happens, man. People make mistakes all the time. Nobody's perfect. I make mistakes at work every single day, and that costs money. Sometimes I give people too much money. It happens every day. Little tiny mistakes happen. But putting yourself in a position to not catch them is the most ridiculous thing of all time. I don't get it. I just don't
Yeah,
get it.
I think at this point it's, I don't even know, like CG just needs, I want to say like a kick in the balls or whatever, but it's like nobody can really give that to them. The only like people said this with Model, the only thing that is gonna make this project fail is CIG themselves. Like, we essentially are completely decoupled from most of the like higher level decision making,
Yes, for
and
sure.
so
And that's
we
how it
like,
should be. Let's be
yeah.
honest, right?
Mhm. But it's like I think it's, I would say not like, not to the extent that it is right now, because it's almost to the point where it's so divorced, like, you from the average player. Like, some of the decisions are so divorced from the average player experience. I know they have like the player experience team and all that stuff, but like I'm talking about like the higher level stuff where it's almost, I don't even know how to describe this. There's no direct like mechanism or whatever for any of any, I guess, improvement on the player end, if that makes sense. I can't really articulate that well.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm reading you there. But it just I look at it as I know that's not the case. And Todd Pappy is like one of the lead guys. I don't know who made any decisions here, so we're not putting it on him. Because that would not be fair at all. I've seen him come on certain shows or whatever, SEL, that kind of stuff. And like I've watched him play the game. he plays the game. Like, he knows what's going on. I don't know how, but that's what it feels like, right? It feels like they're disconnected from the people who play the game and are making decisions in some sort of a vacuum of their understanding or how they want things to be, but not the actual reality of things. And then whoever's telling them, whether it's the community team or player experience team, they're clearly not listening, because it's not like we're not vocal, right? It's not like they can't hear us. It's that it sounds to me like they're choosing not to listen. And that's okay. You make your decisions, but they're going to have to, you make your bed, you have to sleep in it as well. And they made their bed this patch. And yeah, that's where we are. But Halo, I would say our call's been about 15 minutes now. So anything in particular else you'd like to touch on quickly before we go to the next one?
No, not really. I just want to hurry up and get to 318.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel. I think that's where we're at. I think I do want to say this is, because you make the best point, is 3.x is not like from 3.0 to 3.18 or to 3.17, I should say. None of these patches matter, right? They've been fun, they've been rough, none of them matter, but in the end, it's about moving forward with Star Citizen. And the only way to do that is to hit 318 PES, then server meshing, then more star systems, then whenever Tony Z does what he's supposed to do, then we start building in the rest of the game. This is not the game. So if we're upset about the way the current experience is, we, at the same time, are not entirely sitting here in the right. So if we're setting expectations that this is supposed to be a finished product and all these things, I think we're in the wrong. But the problem here is you got your marketing team putting out all these videos showing it looking like a final experience. So, what are some people supposed to think? And then you have to end up here watching a show like this or playing the game for a few months to realize that was all just bullshit. We got to focus on going in the right direction and playing the game, or making the game, excuse me. And that's why I'm ready for 318. 318 is a big hurdle. They get over that hurdle. Then we go over another huge hurdle. And then we could start talking about them not focusing on the current experience, not focusing on the economy. That's my opinion. I would love for them to have an economy in the current game, but I don't think that that's realistic. That's where I'm at. But all right, Halo Blade, we'll let you go and we'll bring in the next caller, man. Thank you so much for your call. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, later, brother. All right, our next guy is Michael the Arc 42. What's up? Hello. Get your name in there. There we go. So, what are you thinking about all this?
So, I'm going to take a little bit of a contrary opinion. I'm not doing this to White Knight. If
That's
you were to
fine.
meet any of my friends, I think everyone would know that I do not White Knight CIG at all. However, I think that 3.17.2 is kind of a ghost patch, right?
Yeah,
like
I'm with you. There's nothing special about it.
Nothing special about it, and we had a wipe that I think was unplanned here, and there is a wipe coming in 3.18, which means there's not a lot of time or incentive to actually play in the patch. And I think what CIG was trying to do was give everyone a slight jump off on the grind, because like an example for me, the first thing I do when I jump into after a wipe, my big thing is I like to grind up to an eclipse, right? I'm past the point of paying real money for games. I've done enough of that, I think, as many of us have. And, that can be quite a grind though, for a while. And I think what they were trying to avoid is people spending the entire patch grinding for a ship or, whatever their goal is. If it's a high goal, the multi-million UEC thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then having it wiped as soon as they get there, right? So it's giving everyone just enough of a jump off to start that grind. the millions of UEC obviously was a big mistake, and I think they're trying to balance, giving people a head start versus like giving people so much money that there's no point in doing any grind and playing the patch anyway, right?
Sure,
Because
Michael.
if everyone starts with 0 UEC or whatever your starting UEC is, if it's not a whole bunch to start out with, you might say that, oh well, there's no point in trying to grind in this patch because by the time I get anywhere, the next wipe comes in.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why I think that there's I made the same argument you did at the beginning. I don't think this is white knighting. There is an absolute justification for them giving out money. They fucked it up, and that's the issue. And then they fucked it up even worse trying to fix their fuck up. That's what I have issue with. Not the idea. The idea of it makes sense, especially when you find out that 318 is probably going to come with a wipe. That really does change the attitude there, and I think it does make sense. I just think I'm going to agree. I just read something in chat, and I was about to say it too. Don't you think most people already get enough of a head start where they're now, they've skipped ship progression and they have spaceships? And I know people who start with starter ships don't have that advantage. But I think that there was a better choice here. And I think the better choice was taking, that TikTok guy that's really funny and he just goes like this, like, oh, you lost all your money? Well, here's all these options to tell you where to go and make your money. Like, just right here, guys. You don't need a handout. You need direction. And all CIG had to do was, yeah, guys, we're wiping, but look at all this cool stuff we got you.
Yeah,
and guess what? That cool stuff you don't need a spaceship for, or a really good one.
Yeah, I think a little bit of improved communication on some of the routes to making money would really help. I think a lot of players come in and don't know what the best money-making routes are.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit of an issue, right? Like, what pays the best? Is it grinding for bounties? Is it doing these beacons? Is it trying to do the events? How much do the events pay?
Mm-hmm.
And that can be a little bit of a difficult experience for folks.
Yeah. I just feel that there's the logic behind trying to help is sound. The lack of testing, the making the same mistakes, the being, I think, reactionary or trying to prevent reactions from their community because they can't, it almost seems like they just are afraid of us because then another article comes out or something. I don't know what it is, but it seems like they react to things that might be a negative thing from our community, and they're always trying to shuffle around and fix everything when honestly, like you mentioned, it's kind of a nothing patch. We're never going to remember this patch, right? And what we did, because if the game does continue to move forward and become even remotely what it's supposed to be like, it's not even going to be close to the experience we're having now. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that, again, they definitely screwed up the implementation. And, I think they felt a little pot committed there, to use a casino term there.
Yeah.
I think that they had already committed to this idea, and when it got screwed up, I think they just didn't take a step back and be like, okay, I guess we got to just dump that. They were already in no, we'd already said that we are going to do this, and so we have to find a way to make it work, right? I think that's an unfortunate thing. But overall, no one's really going to remember, whether or not they screwed this up or the AUEC, because it's all going to get wiped in 3 months. It's going to be gone.
Yeah, and I generally mean most likely no one's even going to remember the content that came in this patch. Siege of Orison maybe, but the you're gonna look at derelicts, and the way we experience derelicts now are not gonna be the way we experience derelicts in the future. The way we experience Siege of Orson now is not gonna be the way we experience it in the future, right? The game is gonna grow so much and be so different from the way we play it today that we're not going to remember 3.17.2 except for the dumb moments that they've had now. We're gonna remember their screw ups. We're not gonna remember the actual like content necessarily that was added or anything. But yeah, I think they communicated well at the start, saying, "Hey, there's a wipe," but didn't communicate all that great. I don't think Xylo communicated that perfect, because I think it's like this. What do you think about this, Michael? Because they do this thing that makes me giggle. I just laugh it off. It's not really a thing that bothers me too much, but it's always I think we do need to always look forward, and I think that's their intention here, but it's always about the new tech that they have, that this problem won't happen. Yet every time we play the game, same bugs, same issues, same decision making. It for me, I see a trend, and the trend is like hey guys, don't pay attention to the problem here. We're gonna fix it with all of our new stuff that doesn't always fix it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, with that, I've done some software development in my life, and it's always a hard thing deciding like how much you want to rewrite code versus like fix random bugs that are hidden somewhere because
Sure.
you had one equal sign instead of two in your code, but it didn't
Yep.
break. It's and a lot of those bugs, you don't know why they happen. And sometimes, I did this one project once where, we had this bug that would show up once a year because one guy on our team would make an edit to try and fix something. And like, it would always break the same thing over and over again. So like we had a name for the bug that we eventually, like, it would show up and then, okay, we know exactly where to fix it because every time he tried to work on this one thing, that new bug would express itself. And, that kind of thing can happen, especially with a large code base with Star Citizen. And a lot of it too is you can spend, I know a lot of people think about some bugs being simple or small, but with the kind of code base you're talking about and the complexity and the asynchronous nature of the programming involved, there's no such thing as a simple bug, right? You fix one bug, you create 5 more.
Yep.
And a lot of times, spending, how many hours of dev time fixing a bug that might be replaced later down the road when you're about to dump this code in the first place. How much time do we spend trying to fix what's essentially, dead code that's about to be replaced? And that's always a difficult balance between like our experience in the live servers versus like, how far do we delay this game to fix, things for this month.
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference is the logic's sound, but then you wait 4 years for server meshing, which is a lot of the reasoning behind not fixing the dead code, right?
Yeah, that CIG's ability to understand how long something takes is a whole other
a whole other podcast.
Yeah, and the way they work on features, the way I do home improvement projects, right? Like, I gather all the supplies and I start working on it. I get really excited about it, and then you stop halfway through, and then like 2 years go down the road. Oh yeah, that was the thing I was working on.
Yeah, remember delivery missions?
Yeah.
I remember making a video about delivery missions. This is totally off topic, but I just want to say this because I made a video about delivery missions that like I loved them because they used to have delivery missions that like took you across the system, and people liked those. People did them all the time. I was one of those people, and they just took that out completely and started fresh with the type that we have now in game, with the expectation that they were going to continue to iterate on them and improve it, right? And go back to the way it was, but an improved version of the way it was. Yeah, it's 2022, almost the end of 2022, and we still don't have the improved, like, we cannot take a box from one planetary body and bring it to another. There's no mission that does that. And like we had those for years and people love them. So it's like that example. The home improvement thing is so funny because that's how I feel about that. With that particular one, I was like, guys, it's gonna be so great. 3.11 it was. I'm loving the changes. If they build off of this, it's gonna be fantastic. And then they just never did. You're just like,
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And I've lost count of the number of things the number of times that they said over the years, oh yeah, we're gonna work on this, and then we're gonna iterate. As soon as anyone from CIG says we're gonna iterate on this moving forward and improvement, I know
they're
they're
not.
gonna leave it in the dust.
Yeah, they're not going to. And I think that all is sort of actually on topic here, right? Because they don't have it feels like, I don't want to generalize or do anything like that, but it feels like to me that they don't have the self-awareness to know that they continue to do the same thing over and over again like this. Like this is a very similar situation to that, right? And yeah, it's just frustrating. But I don't know, Michael, if you got anything else to add. I'm like indifferent at this point. I'm just over it. I'm over the bullshit.
Yeah, I've got two somewhat off-topic points. One, I'm glad to finally be awake for the podcast. I really enjoy it, except that I'm never awake early enough in Orlando to actually do this thing. Usually, I wake up just in time. Say what?
You going to the Bar Citizen?
Oh, unfortunately, I'm out of town that day.
My God. Okay.
Yeah.
I got off. I actually got off of work, so I will be going.
Oh man, that sucks.
Yep.
But yeah, I usually jump in like right as you say, well, that's Answer the Call, everyone. Thanks for joining. And so it's nice to actually get in here. And I will also say, I don't think the podcast is stale because the format is stale. I think if the podcast feels stale, it's because the game is stale right now.
Yeah.
I think that if we were hitting 4.0 and all the crazy stuff was happening, there would be a lot of different people coming in with a lot of different opinions on where are we going? What's the new development and all this? We've been sitting functionally in this 4.0 waiting holding pattern for like the last year and a half.
Yeah,
Ever since 2020, the stuff that's being added to patches is pretty incremental and small. And I think that's one of the reasons that there's just a little bit less energy right now. There's not much to talk about for the last year and a half to 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I've been hovering, but I can tell you, I don't know where I want this podcast to go, but I know that I don't want to focus on these kind of topics anymore. This is not interesting to me anymore. I'm over telling them how I feel about how they treat me. I'm over it. I want to talk about the game. I want to talk about like the balance or that was really fun, and what would be really fun is this, that, and the other thing. I don't want to be I do not want to be an armchair developer. I don't know anything about game development. I don't know anything about management. I've been in management in a casino, but that's not the same thing. I just don't know where to go anymore, and I feel lost, and I want to focus on the game. And what I could tell you guys this, and I know you guys really enjoy the podcast, and I know you guys really enjoy Week in Review, and that's the only reason I still do them, because I may not be enjoying them as much anymore. Is kind of how I feel, but I think you're right. It is partly because of the game, or mostly because of the game. But I do want to shift it at some point to be like more focused on the game, because I just don't want to talk about the game anymore. I want to focus on playing it, right? And that's what's important to me. And it's tough. We're not there yet.
Yeah, server meshing will fix the podcast like everything else magically.
Hopium.
Uh-huh.
All right, Michael. We'll let you go. We'll talk to the next caller, but I appreciate it, and I appreciate your kind words as well. And I'm sad you're not going to be at the event. Bummer, man.
Yep, thanks.
All right, buddy. Later. Also, Michael was really good about the the microphone. Like he knows that he had headphones, and he was really good about the way he handled it. Let's bring in Frosty. Frosty, what's up, buddy?
Hello.
Hello. I know I have to turn you up. You've been consistently low for me for whatever reason. So I got you at plus 200. But don't do anything. I'll keep bringing you up and down, okay?
Yeah, sound.
All right. So yeah. We were just playing. You're struggling. I know that.
Yeah, massively. Constant crashes. It's this entire patch is just a massive miss for me.
Yeah.
It's not good at all. Especially with the credit stuff. I don't really care, to be honest.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it's if they're already hinting that it's going to be wiped anyway in 3.18, you know, it's whatever. You know, like you said, anything that happens at this point, ever since 3.0, it doesn't really matter. And obviously, yeah, some people who are complaining about it, they're probably the ones who are always playing Star Citizen, you know, going into it and grinding to getting ships and that. But for me, it doesn't really bother me. But at the same time, it's a constant issue with CRG with their decision making. It's a constant thing that keeps on happening. Not just with this credit stuff, it's with other issues in the past as well. And obviously, the only thing that the community can see is to look back on the past with CIG to determine what the things are going to be like in the future. That's the only thing we can do. And until things change at CIG on the management level and the decision making, our opinion front facing won't change until things change with them.
Yeah, and I've been going on record more and more and more saying that I like the direction that things are going in, and it feels like that changes are being made. It felt like that they were focusing more on the game, and then all that's kind of gone away. But when I look at this, I look at them. We got to look at it two ways. You got to look at it. Do they care or do they not care? They clearly care about what your experience is like in the live patch.
Yeah.
That's why they did what they did with the money. So the intention, good. But the decision making and the choices are consistently bad. So where's the issue there? Where's the breakdown? How do we fix it? That's the part that I struggle with, is basically like, who's being the dummy over there, you know, and why, you know, which group, which individuals, like what's going on there? Why are they the ones making the decisions? Why are they making the decisions the way they are? And I do want to touch on something, because you sort of mentioned it, and we've said it a few times. They talked generally, I believe it wasn't like super, super clear about the 3.18 wipe being a possibility. And I said that their communication was good, because they communicated that there was going to be a wipe for 3.17.2, and they were very clear about why, and hey, this, you know, was a last resort, so on and so forth. That aspect of communication was good. But what about the idea of communicating that this period of time in Star Citizen, welcome new backers, but guys, this is going to be a monumental moment in Star Citizen's history, and it's going to be a long process that is going to be very volatile. There's going to be wipes. There's going to be a lot more issues than you've ever experienced in the past. Maybe their communication isn't good. Maybe communicating on, hey, we're trying to make the live server as enjoyable as possible, rather than, hey guys, the live servers are not going to be enjoyable, is probably, or they're enjoyable. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, you had a ton of issues today because of crashes, but even though we had a ton of issues playing Siege of Orson, I had fun. So there's tons of possibilities of having fun. The little thing we're doing with our org, I'm having so much fun. So I'm enjoying the game. I want to make that very, very clear that I'm enjoying the game. But the decision making and the choices, don't seem to fall in line with their intentions, right? It's just like they just don't make sense, and I don't
Yeah.
know.
The
The way
only
they
issue,
communicate it maybe should be a little different. Is like, hey guys, this is going to be a rough time, and just deal with it, and I promise things will be better in the long run. Kind of maybe should be the communication.
yeah, the only issue I have, especially like with the decision making, obviously that comes through Jake or Zylo, etc., is that kickback from the community is going to them.
Yes, which is not fair.
Which, yeah, exactly. It's not fair on those guys, but at the same point as well, obviously, like you said, that they need to start. For me, overall, their communication is a bit meh. Like from other games that I've played, I've even just started playing Eve. I had someone come from the player experience team to talk to me directly in game and get my views on it because I'm a new player. But at the same token,
Seriously?
yeah, someone from the player
From
experience team.
from like my sponsored stream, you started playing, and an experienced team person just randomly came and asked you how you're enjoying the game.
Randomly opened a chat with me and asked if I had any questions, if I need any help with anything, if I need to, if I don't understand anything. He even gave me a few things as well in
Take
my
notes.
inventory.
Take
But
notes.
I
CIG.
even said it in chat, like, this is what Eve's doing, and look what CIG is doing right now.
Yeah.
It's not a good look, but at the same time, obviously, CIG, like I said, we can only judge from what they've done in the past. But at the same time, that like, I wouldn't say culture, but at the same time, so stuff needs to change. Like going into the future, if things are going to start opening up, they need to start acting like that. If you know what I mean. Because right now they act like, obviously, like obviously you see Horizon and all that. Like, yeah, it's fun enough, but at the same time, it's not in that state where you can call it, a good experience.
Yeah.
You just, well, obviously sometimes that depends on the person, but on majority of people, especially myself, with all these crashes and bugs and stuff, it's not really a good experience in that aspect. But going forward, it might be, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, your experience is an outlier, so that's a tough one. Like your opinion is of course valid. I don't want to devalue it because we were playing with like 11 people and you were the only one having issues. I think one other person crashed once, so there's something weird going on with you. But I can't disagree with what you're saying, but yeah, it's just this is a tough
and just
one, man.
touching on the credit stuff as well. I was just reading Zylo's update. Obviously, he mentioned that there was bugs that they found while they was fixing it, but then he mentioned in 3.18 they've got a new wallet service.
Yeah.
So
that's
obviously,
why I didn't like Xylo's that's why I'm like taking Xylo's comments and going, I don't like this. This feels like generic CIG communication where Jake, I think, was a little more like, all right, guys, I know everything's on fire. I'm like, I'll try to communicate with you what I know as soon as I know it, I promise, like that kind of thing.
I think it's just that director mentality that Zylo's got, because obviously he's in charge of
course,
community managers. But then again, if that's going to be a split between the community managers and how they approach the community, that's very worrying in my opinion.
Yeah.
How they actually say stuff and get that information out. And obviously, if they've got a new service coming into 3.18, and then the bug fixing and doing all this stuff for this patch, when we're only going to have it for 3 months until 3.18 comes to life, it's kind of like, what's the point? But obviously, it might be an important thing to try and fix, but at the same time, they're the ones who made that mess in the first place by giving people that those credits in the first place after the wipe. Yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned this in the monologue at the start of the podcast, or if I was talking to just general chat with it, but like, I deal poker, I deal with real people's money, and I make mistakes, and I feel exactly the way that they do or did or whatever, where you make a mistake for somebody and you cost them money, and you want to do anything for them to make them feel better. because you do
Yeah.
feel guilty about it. Let's get real, guys. I've been dealing for 15 years. Mistakes happen. For the most part, I don't give a shit what what anybody thinks, but certain players that I actually care about, I do feel guilty, but 99% of them I don't. But yes, like in that moment, you want to help them and do anything you can. And I feel like that's what CIG was doing here. But at some point, you have to realize that like you're just making the situation worse, you know?
Just adding fuel to the fire.
Exactly. And that's all they keep doing. And they did it again, you know, like the extra million for this. And it's just like, come on, bro. We don't need it. Just stop it. Just get out of the way.
I mean, really, I've not had a good experience ever since 3.7, I believe, most stable patch. I've not had
Yeah.
a good experience ever since then, and I probably won't until probably after 4.0, because obviously
I would
with-
imagine sometime after 4.0. Yeah.
yeah,
How long
with
after?
tests coming in.
I don't know.
I obviously don't know, but yeah, it's probably not going to be a good experience, and hopefully they learn from what they've caused with this patch. But knowing CIG, they probably won't.
Yeah. And I think that's the theme here is if you learn from your mistakes, I don't think anybody would have an issue. We'd pat them on the back and say, hey, no big deal. It's just one patch. But the issue is it just hasn't been one patch. You know what I mean? And that's the problem for me personally. This is just one patch. What happened now means literally nothing. The actions, everything that's happened in 3.17.2 have really no relevance whatsoever, right? But it doesn't. It's just the consistent same stupid mistakes all the time that you're just like, well, I can't just pat you on the back and say it's going to be better, you know, because I don't believe it is anymore. I am not confident that this company can make a good game at this point.
Yeah, it doesn't really
That's just how
help
I feel.
with Squadron as well. Like, I think you mentioned in the past where they've moved FPS and flight to Squadron,
Yeah,
which
everything,
is just
basically everything.
bonkers. You know, like having those experiences where you, like for me, FPS stuff and flight, space flight, atmosphere flight doesn't matter. That should be a player first thing. We should be the ones who should be giving our feedback on iterations they put into the game and then put that into Squadron, not the other way around.
Maybe. I think that's a whole nother podcast in itself, because I think we put our feedback on a pedestal, and I think it's because often we have the same experience with them where like they put something in that is obviously so stupid to do, and we see it in 2 seconds, but they haven't seen it in months and months and months of work on it. But I do think that we put our feedback on like this pedestal that it's not really on.
Yeah.
Maybe. But I definitely feel the way you do, but I don't think we should. I don't think there's like a ton of logic behind it, but maybe, I don't know. It's I'd like to think that we know better, but I'm pretty sure they do. And I don't know
'cause obviously
where
they're the
things
ones who
fall
built in the
apart,
game.
but they just always seem to fall apart. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. It's just obviously the community ain't, you know, the golden child and everything's good with us, but at the same time, you know, it just falls back on the John with the roadmap at the start of the year. Like they put all the blame on noisy people, but at the same time, they're the ones who doing the actions towards the community.
Yeah.
That's why we get so rolled up. And obviously, the example would be the roadmap, but you know, Jake has done an amazing job with that. And obviously, things have died down, and it's a good incentive, you know, of changing, and that's what the whole of CIG needs to do.
Yeah, agreed. And I think we come down on them for the game not being what it needs to be or what we'd like it to be, or you just, you know, insert any phrase there. And you got to realize that you got a bunch of people working with an incomplete system in a game that what would be easy in one engine is just not easy in this. And it's like one of these situations where everything is just bigger in Star Citizen and it's more difficult, and I think I said it earlier, I think we have our expectations a little too high. And if it's the CIG marketing team that's creating those expectations or us creating them for ourselves, we certainly don't need to direct our anger at any individuals, especially not community members or community team members. And we just want them to be better, and we're getting tired. That's it. I'm just tired, man. I'm tired of the same silly stuff, and I'm tired of saying the same things. I'm over it. Are you over this call, Frosty? It sounds like we're done. I'm just like making a joke.
We're done. Yeah.
We're going around in circles. But all right, brother. Thank you for calling. I appreciate it. And I hope you have a better experience in the game soon, because we got railguns we got to find.
Yes, we do. I'm reinstalling the game right now, so hopefully that helps. But if not, then I'll try and find something else.
Hey, clear your shaders folder, that could be it. Never know.
Yeah.
And then spin around, do 12 jumping jacks, and I heard that's the workaround for this one. All right, Frosty, be good, buddy.
Yeah, see ya.
Bye-bye. All right, now we got Reezer, the famous Reezer. Here we go.
Test.
Pog. Test. Pago. Hello?
Yeah, so... 370.2. SE being, in fact, a pre-alpha, as infamously stated by management themselves, I was still genuinely excited, and I was still hoping that after this crazy long PTU cycle, we would get a somewhat playable experience. And the most disappointing aspect of this patch for me is that even for a patch that was meant to be content, they ultimately kind of failed in almost all regards.
Sure. Let me stop you there,
Quite
because
a mess.
it's a good. I think it's like a good point to bring up. Is this is 3.17.2, right? We typically have a patch and a 0.1 patch, and then we move on. And they had a lot of time to make this experience really, really good. And I guess it's been kind of subpar, eh?
Yeah, for sure. Like, and being subpar, but then further using it to like experiment with server cap increases, it doesn't help. It's once again feels like that the game is kind of on the back burner, and they are just testing out shit.
Yep.
Without us necessarily seeing results. Like they increased server cap. I will be honest with you. I genuinely don't know at this moment in time how the PvE content is different with like higher players. I haven't played that much, so I don't know. I haven't seen a server with like 10 players in it, and how that compares to a server that has over 70 players in it, and how the AI moves differently. I don't know. I will admit that, but it's just strange that they make such a big change, right? Because they always said that they cannot increase the server cap because like just increasing it by 10, it was 30k every 5 minutes, or the AI would be completely stationary. So it's strange that once again they are being extra experimental when this was supposed to be one of those patches that all right, no major like game development hurdles to come over, just make some missions.
I was trying to figure out where you were going, but now you're really making sense. So keep going. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, so they said that 3.18 is coming. That's gonna be like a proper huge like fundamental change to the game. We need more time for that. We are throwing the schedule out the window. No worries there, right? And then you make this interim patch, and just apparently just to give us something to do. And what was there on paper? It was the first proper PvE event that excited me, because I enjoy the FPS side a lot more. And this is like something that brings everyone together, fairly easy to approach. Like you just spawn at Horizon, hop on a shuttle, and you are there basically. So
Void
this
communication's a little bit easier.
yes, and once you get on the shuttle, you see the players there, and this was the first time when you look around yourself, you are standing in the shuttle or sitting, if you are more into roleplay, right? That okay, it's interesting. People are often talking, people are preparing, and it feels like you are actually in an MMO. And I was hoping that it would be a bit more and actually a lot smoother than how it ended up. Yeah, so I feel like this is a whiff in the content regard that it feels like effort was definitely put into it, but once again, I feel like it's all going to waste, and it just doesn't amount to anything. Like I logged out yesterday feeling disappointed because I spent 4 hours on a mission and it withdraws at the very end, so I get nothing. With you, we obviously had the withdraws, the fact that the first time it wouldn't start, and I feel like this is like PTSD. It's the same experience where we are just dodging bugs, something unknown is happening to us that we just can't deal with, and it's completely game breaking, and it's once again just never really ends up amounting to anything that you like finish. And even if the progression in the game is just nothing right now, you would still feel like you completed something, and we still are not there, and I was kind of hoping that this would be the patch for it.
Okay, like I get what you're trying to say, but I'm kind of keeping an eye on chat too, and they're making some comments that I think are reasonable towards you, but also not as much, because I don't think that they're really getting the point that you're trying to say. Is if anybody understands that Star Citizen is an alpha, it's Reezer. He tells me every day. But I think the issue here that he's trying to communicate is that, well, first off, let's communicate something to you just from me to the people who are watching, is Star Citizen is an alpha, but it's also a live service. And what they've been communicating more and more with not just their actions, but also their words, is that they want the live experience to be more on that live service situation than the PTU. There's plenty of good opportunities to experiment in the PTU. I think where you're being a little unreasonable, Reezer, is with the 100 player count. I think it was a very small experiment that turned out to be a success in their mind, and I think it's a general success, but that's my opinion. Yours is yours, mine's mine. And I think you're correct, and I think we'll see over time whether or not that was a good decision.
I think I completely agree. Like I think the player crap increase on the PTU went exceptionally well. Yeah. I was hoping that in order to like squeeze out just an extra bit of like playableness, they would still keep the server cap low to provide us.
I don't think there was a difference. That's the thing, is I don't think there was much of a difference.
Maybe you're right. I can challenge you on that, because I remember like 1-2 years.
Yeah,
before,
it would be all anecdotes anyway, right?
Yes, I always had an infinitely better experience when the server where the server had like 20 players max in it, and the AI was actually moving around. But maybe it's different this time. I don't know. So I don't want to get too bogged down on that.
Yeah, of course, and that's an unreasonable like thought process anyway, because nobody wants to nobody wants to play the game just by themselves, right? So a 20 player server that would be a solo experience, and I feel like if that's where it's good, then we have problems, bigger problems than anything, because then we might as well just play Elite Dangerous then.
Yeah, that's true. But on the other hand, would you have not enjoyed this more if like it was the 10 of us or the 12 of us, however many guys we had in a party today, and then we would get to play this beginning to end,
sure,
cooperating.
But did you back for that? I didn't back for that. So there's
I didn't,
got to be
but-
there's got to be this so that's why I think the people in chat that were like saying it's an alpha, they're the experimental comments, things like that are unreasonable, is because there's got to be a balance from us too. There's got to be a balance from them where they're not just throwing in shit that might make the live servers unstable. They also need to make the game, and we need to allow them to make the game and not cry. And I'm not saying you're crying, this is not directed towards you, Reezer, and not cry every time that they make a change or focus somewhere that may not jive with the live experience being more of a game than it was the previous patch. And that's where we have to have a balance as well. And like, we need to work with them and be respectful of what they need, but they need to also be respectful of what we need. And I don't think we're getting what we deserve yet. And I think that's what you're saying, especially in a 3.317.2. In a .2, we deserve better than we have now, especially when you're in a PTU for a fucking month. That's how I feel.
I'm sorry, dude. Getting to like just the second platform takes like 20 minutes of shuttling yourself around, right? The mission, at some point, CIG has to respect our time to a point where the mission just doesn't just withdraw randomly. And
yeah, but
nobody
hold on
knows
on
why.
that one. Hold on that one, because I have moments like that, and I imagine this is one of them. I was sitting there thinking the same thing, like, this is stupid. But and I guarantee you, if we brought Elliot, who made the mission, on, he would have a perfectly game design reason for why it takes as long as it does. I don't think it's the silly everything has to be realistic thing, would be my guess. I bet it's so people don't rush the platforms. That would be my guess
Okay,
behind
well,
it.
then, it has to be communicated somehow. At the end of the day,
Agreed.
every time something like this is going on, and it's just more than soul crushing, because you spend your time on like a worthless experience, generally because 318 is getting a vibe anyway. You are there just trying to genuinely experience what
Agreed.
CIG is giving you, and then it's just all absolutely dumpstered. Because
Siege of
who
Orson
knows why?
is one of the more frustrating experiences I've had, because of all the weird moments of, if it just feels like people can just rush ahead of you, and they're experiencing something that I feel like anytime I've played like a major event in a video game, you kind of move as a blob together. And
Yes,
the design of this completely says that is not the ideal way to play. So people just run all over the place.
yes, but that doesn't make for a good co-op. Like, you are, just because you play alongside each other. Yes, I agree. I know you are agreeing with me. That's my huge issue too. Right? I am a huge raid enthusiast. That's the reason why MMOs are my favorite genre of games. I love to get 25 people around and just do a genuinely challenging cooperative experience, right? Like, that's probably the best time I ever had playing video games in my life. And there is a difference between like us being 20 people on Discord and then separating into groups and checking different towers than just people mindlessly just running it down mid along, like, right next to each other, doing whatever. Nobody knows what the other guys are progressing towards. Nobody knows like where the most further ahead guy or group or player is, what they are doing, like what they should be doing. There is just no general progression throughout the entirety of this Siege of Orison.
I'm gonna say something controversial here.
Go ahead.
I think things like this need to be, well, first off, we all know they need to be triggered by the players, and I think it should be instanced.
I 100% agree. I know it's controversial, but
I think it's
then,
controversial as fuck.
yeah,
But
I would love to just group up with you guys, 20 of us, go in organized, and don't just rush in. Everybody is communicating. Would fucking love it. Yeah.
Does it not feel like a dungeon? Does that, like, everything
is.
about that feels like a dungeon, and it should totally be like a party size limit and go. Like most games, I get like that. The reason I think it's controversial is because I think the people who watch my Twitch channel are very different than the people who watch my YouTube channel. Okay. And the people who watch my YouTube channel are very more on they like the simminess of Star Citizen, the realistic nature of it. And I think the people who watch my Twitch channel are more geared towards MMOs, gameplay being the more focus. And I just look at it like, when I see the location, just the location, it feels like a dungeon. It feels like, oh, I've been teleported to this new area and everything is falling apart around me and I'm the hero that has to save it, right? Or we are in this case, because it's obviously not really like a solo experience. But I just look at it like, that would better be served as an instance experience that you kind of queue up for than the way it is now, that it just runs all the time, right? It's kind of weird. And like, we
Yes,
got to stop trying to
we get
reinvent MMOs or reinvent video games where
you know why they do it though? Like, they want this to be like a fully open world, and everything is happening inside this same instance, right? Like I
Yeah.
understand the reason.
I get it
but
too.
from like an objectively good like gameplay perspective, I am 1000.
In a
I
vacuum,
wouldn't
yeah.
dare say it because I thought that you would disagree with me. Like,
No.
I was thinking of it, but I'm still like, I'm not sure. But yeah, so just grab like 25, 30 players, because like, again, this is cool, but it's also not meant for like 50 plus players, right? Like this is not, then you get
it's
people
not-
running. It's like 20, 25 maybe. Maybe
I
that's
think their
even too much.
expectation. I think you can have 100 players. I don't think it matters how many players. It's they all need to be able to communicate with each other, and we don't have the tools in game to do that yet. Not well enough, because VoIP doesn't always work, and partying is not. You can't party launch as easy into things, and inviting everyone to a party that's at that platform, let's say, isn't ideal either, right? So it just seems like if you, I look at Siege of Orison, and obviously we had issues with just the general mission logic breaking today, but the experience as a group, but only as a group playing it, is 1,000 times better than the experience of it just open.
Yes, I mean, there's not much to debate here.
No.
I'm basically 100% with you.
Yeah, so that's the
in every
argument
regard.
behind instancing. But again, I don't think we'll ever get something like that. But I might die on that hill.
Me too. Maybe hand
I
in
might
hand.
say
Who
we
knows?
absolutely need something like that. But it would break the immersion of the game as well. And I love that aspect of Star Citizen 2. It's hard.
Maybe, I mean, you can kind of like hand wave it, have like a jump point that you have to go in the future with, like the next, not Siege of Horizon, but like Wandu Siege, whatever. You just go into a jump gate, and then that serves as an instance where you end up to a location, and only that single ship. It's like a single use teleportation, right? I don't know. They can make it like instance in the future, but this one is definitely not it. They wanted it to be a part of the world, and
I mean, somebody said they like playing with randoms too, like, and they didn't like my idea because they like playing with randoms. I'm not saying that you have to queue up with all people It's the perfect opportunity to stand right at the start at the top of the roof, and create a party to go into it, and then you go into it. But you like limit the party size to whatever the design team feels is appropriate, and then you go in and you experience the event, and that's it. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, listen, Mike. All I'm saying is that the idea is cool, and I like it a ton.
Yeah.
I hope there will be a day where we will get to experience it the way that we imagine it in our heads, right? But that's basically the entirety of Star Citizen. So
Yeah.
that's the issue for me. It's not a step forward. It's just chugging along, more or less.
Before we let you go, what do you think about the money stipend thing? We didn't talk about that at all.
Oh yeah, I guess it's the continuation of the clown show that is seemingly like stars or CIG's.
I mean, you're someone who earned an 890
decision-making.
jumping game, like.
I am sorry, but I know. Yeah, I did, but I don't care. I genuinely feel like I didn't make any progress with the 890. That's
Okay.
because there is no purpose to it. It was literally just to annoy you while stream sniping, and that's the 100% true.
Seriously?
Not even kidding. I don't know. I was sitting on like 60 million. Okay, boys, every ship is upgraded. There hasn't been a wipe in so long. Might as well get myself another ship, 890. Like a perfect meme ship to like snipe influencers with. Whatever. It's fine. I was never mad at a wipe, even slightly. I think people who are I don't get with how little content there is in the game right now.
Yeah.
I don't think anything is really progression, because you progress just by making money, and then you buy an item that you cannot even use, because there is no purpose to like an 890 or to like the maybe the XL one, but ultimately
there are
the shields
some
don't really
ships-
matter.
Yeah, there's some ships that provide like new experiences, like a mining ship or kind of larger cargo ships, but most ships provide very similar experiences to each other right now. And we don't have like those special, I guess the next ships that will provide a unique experience is salvage ships, maybe. But again, how unique is it when it's just a fucking laser? So I think that's where I'm totally with you is the whole thing with the stipend stuff. Like none of this really matters because there was never any progression in the game anyway that people were working towards. So
yes,
that's why I was kind of totally fine. Like give out all the money you want because it didn't really matter. Right.
I genuinely don't care. Like, just do a wipe. Basically, please, CIG, don't try to do these gimmick half solutions that you have to backpedal on a day later and then everything blows up. You need a wipe. Do a wipe. It's an alpha. Everybody accepts that. Who doesn't is gonna find out that is an alpha in like 1,000 different ways. Just
the wipe is the least alpha of what they do.
Yes,
like that's the best part. The wipe is the least alpha problem they have. Oh my god, I just like had that realization, and it's like I can't believe we've made this many mistakes on this when all you have to do is log into the game to realize that it's a complete dumpster fire. Like what the hell?
Listen, let me put it this way. I would take like 5 subsequent patch wipes if I would get to complete Siege of Horizon with you guys once properly, with us killing, like just to provide 2 or 3 hours of a great gameplay experience. I would rather take that in this current game with like basically zero progression and then trade that to like 4 or 5 subsequent wipes. I don't care. It's not an issue I ever really cared about. Not right now. When the game, has progression and when I will spend 10, 20, 30 hours grinding, I might be a little bit more upset. But right now, it's a non-issue for me. I think it's not something others should be concerned about either. One last thing though.
Okay.
They have to stop with the IGN trailers. Like right now with how the game is and how it plays, these IGN trailers are just way too easy to meme on. And it's just they have to save these for when the game is actually playable. I am sorry. I'm not sure if you have seen that there are two trailers right now, one for the event, one for the patch in general.
I've seen them, yeah.
Please, CIG, just not yet. That's it.
Yeah. I 1000% agree, but I don't know how we expect them to. You know what? Fuck it. You're right. They funded this game in so many different ways without doing that shit that they don't need to. They don't need to do that. We don't need it. You're right. You're right.
It's false advertisement to an extent where I believe it does active harm to the game, and it will do active harm to the game when it becomes when it moves further into the public eye, which it's slowly creeping into like mainstream attention. But that's about it. Yeah. So stop them, please, for the time being, or save them for later. All right, Mike. That's about it. Thank you for the call. Thank you for having me. Everybody, stay toxic and have a great rest of the weekend.
Please don't be toxic. My mental health is bad enough as it is with having to play this game as regularly as I do.
Well, find an outlet for it. But
all right, yeah, I'll just
how
use
I
you as
am.
a punching bag.
True, easy. It's a back and forth I like. Take care.
Later, Rizzer. All right, let's bring our last caller. Hey, it's Nick. What's up, Nick?
Hey, it's good.
Not much. How you feeling about all this?
Oh, so confused. Just every decision CIG has made, it has just boggled my mind on why couldn't you just leave it alone and wait till 318 to correct the issue? I feel like was just something that could have just been an easy, you know what? We tried to do something good for the community. We tried to just give a generous amount of alpha UEC for this little in-between patch update between 17.2 and 3.18. We messed up, and I feel like they could have just left it at that and corrected it in 3.18 instead of doing all this backpedaling and mindless, like minor readjustments that are only half measures and not even a full rollback or a wipe.
Yeah.
And even then, I feel like they really messed up letting players keep the ships that they bought with the money that they were able to that they got. So yeah, we're going to take all this money away from you, but if you buy ships in the meantime with that money, you'll keep those ships at least. And I feel like that's just going against what they even originally intended for the money to be in, because now you're saying, oh, the money didn't matter, but you could still buy the ships. And the money didn't matter, but we're going to correct it because we gave you too much money because the money doesn't matter. And it's just like, well, does the money not matter or does it matter? Because I'm getting mixed messaging from everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I feel like no matter which side of the community you're on, as if it doesn't matter if they wiped it or it does matter that they wiped it. CIG wouldn't have won either way. It would have been just as much backlash from the community because of this mess up. But my personal opinion is that they tried to steer a massive, large, heavy cruise ship like a jet ski. And it just gave whiplash to everyone. And the whole community is feeling it. And I feel like they should have just left the ship on course and just either leave it on course for a wipe or leave it on course for, you know what? We gave you too much money. We'll correct it in 3.18. Have fun in 17.2. Just have fun in 17.2 and we'll wipe it and correct it in 3.18.
Yeah.
I feel like
Can I stop you there though for a second? I feel like if they did that, because I had a few members of my community that were very, very upset with the amount of money that was given out, and I think their upsetness was validated because it screws up Jumptown. They were looking forward to Jumptown too. You're not gonna win, so I'm with you. They screwed it up. But what's waiting until 3.18 gonna do? It's still a screw up, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's still a screw up, and at the same time, it's just I feel like no matter what CIG did, it would have had community backlash. I mean, I feel like this was so divisive of the community that it would just, no matter what CIG did, we would be still having this exact same podcast.
Yeah.
of like what was CIG thinking with like, giving us all this money or wiping all this money and messing it up twice.
Hey guys, can't get mad if you don't play. I'm just saying. That's what I just talk about the game. I don't play it, so it doesn't matter.
That's
I'm just
honestly been
kidding.
what I've been doing for the past like month. I feel is just been playing anything but Star Citizen until like a friend or an org like asks if I want to play, and it's like, oh yeah, I'll hop on. And like, all right, now I remember why I'm hopping off bike.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, if you don't like the money on your account and you're mad about that, like just send it to a random person. That doesn't matter. But I totally understand the like these really awesome events that could have been really, really jam packed with people, especially JT.
How crazy would JT be if everyone had the ships and components they wanted for the like a big shebang of JT for this little in between patch where nothing really matters because it's all getting wiped?
Okay, I mean, that happened last patch. And how crazy was JT when we all knew there was a wipe coming? It was boring as fuck. And it sucked.
Yeah, true. That's true. But at least it could have been a little like, hoorah.
Now, see, for me,
attempt.
I just disagree there because for me, I think what drives Jumptown is the risk versus the reward. The reward is actually worth the risk if you don't have a lot of money. But the reward is not worth the risk. So there's nothing like you need the casual people or the conga liners to want to be conga liners there because it's worth like everybody knows what they signed up for, that it's a possibility that I'm going to get shot down here. I'm going to lose all the time I just spent here, but it's worth the risk to them. And if you don't have those people that would never go to that situation and want it, it's never going to be good. Right.
Yeah.
And I agree. Like if you are the type to get, the 25v25, all right, I take Jumptown, you take Jumptown. Your idea, I think, only works in a scripted scenario. But if you wanted it to be organic, it just wouldn't happen if everybody has everything they want. Because the reason to go there is to get something you don't have.
Yeah, but at the same time, at the last Jumptown that happened, everyone was just going there just to PvP for fun. And mind you, it was completely dead because the people who wanted to go in for the money wasn't there anymore. But it was still a fun event if you partake in it. But you only had to do it in the PvP side.
Yeah,
like, you had to go there just to fight and have fun. I mean, that was the whole point. When I did it, I didn't even take any boxes. I didn't care. I just went there. I just sat on the ground, did FPS stuff, shot people coming in, and that's all I focused on. I didn't even like sell any boxes or anything. I was just like, well, I'm gonna just shoot people because it doesn't matter.
Okay, congratulations. But we're talking about it from the like I guess the game design standpoint. Like you could take Jumptown and make it fun yourself, right? But we're still talking about it from an everybody perspective. Because you could do what you did at Jumptown anywhere. So why did you do it at Jumptown? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I don't want to devalue what you said because the most fun I had at Jumptown, Nick, is when nobody saw it. I played off stream by myself in the middle of the night, barely slept that night because we were having so much fun. There was just 5 of us hanging out in like FPS at Jumptown, and we were like people randomly came with tanks and stuff, and we knocked open their doors and took it. Like I had so much fun doing it, and it was just for the sake of PvP, just like you. But if we're gonna have a conversation and like give feedback on the situation of why a Jumptown works versus why it doesn't, I don't think what you're saying makes sense. Is that fair? I don't know. I don't want to put you down.
It's kind of fair, but at the same time, I feel like there's also the criticism of everyone would be doing the exact same thing, like without the wipe, without all the money involved of the fiasco. If everyone kept all those millions of dollars, the exact same thing would be happening. Of the wipe would be coming, and we would have to grind for money. So yeah, it would give some incentive to do JT, but it also gave the same incentive to not do it because the wipe's going to happen anyway. So
Okay.
you would be thinking, why would I
The
grind?
318 wipe, you mean?
Yeah, the 318
Okay.
wipe. Why would
Yeah.
why would I partake in Jump Town and get all this money if it's just going to be wiped in like a few months?
Yep.
So
And
I feel like right now this period is just such a weird mix of like it doesn't matter which side you go on, it's all getting wiped and it doesn't matter.
yeah, and honestly, I keep forgetting. I pay very close attention to Star Citizen. I don't know how I missed this, but I never knew that there was a plan for a 318 wipe. I never caught that in anything I've read. But it's been confirmed that like they said it to me a million times, so I believe it. And I keep forgetting that that's a thing. So the point you make there is like, I guess the incentive for 317.2 would have never been there in the first place, but yeah.
Like I feel like the main reason, like I feel like everyone would be doing if they kept the money, if everyone kept the money that CIJ given them, we would all be doing the exact same thing in 3 months, just with more expensive ships. That's the only way I view it. I mean, like we would all be doing the exact same thing, just with the ships we want.
You're not wrong, because
it would just be 3 months of that. That's all it would be.
Yeah, and go ahead. I mean, I'm just saying you're right because there's no progression in the game anyway. But the only little bit of progression we have is if you want a certain ship, you have to earn it, and CIG kind of took that earning away, or buy it with real money, I guess. But I don't know.
I mean, the way I view it is, it's not a big deal if they kept the money or if they deleted money. It's all not a big deal, and I feel like CIG and the community both kind of made a mountain out of an anthill.
Agreed.
And I feel like CIG is the one who turned it into a mountain for the community to look at. And
we climbed it, but they've kind of made the mountain.
Yeah, we climbed it,
and
but they
yelled from the top.
We're definitely yelling from the top. What are you doing? I don't want to be up here.
Yeah. Let me down from here.
But yeah, I feel like it's just they blew up a small issue, and I feel like if they just left this small issue alone and acknowledged it and just corrected it in 318 with the additional 318 wipe, it wouldn't have blown up to the proportion that it did.
I agree.
That's just my thought.
Oh, I agree 100%. I think the giving a bunch of money out was just a temporary thing. It's whatever. And when it comes down to it, Jumptown is it's not as fun as it could be now because we need so much more to drive reasons to do things in the game anyway, that all these people that think that there would have been incentive behind it, yeah, I guess, but I just think we would have, I think if people had nothing or very little, a full wipe, I think you're going to get a lot more incentive at a Jumptown, because you're in one session, you're getting the ship you want and the components for it, and you're done, kind of thing. And you don't have to the difference with Jumptown versus other places is it's organic and it's different every time. Whereas the grind that you would do for money and every other aspect is like repeating the same action over and over again, where Jumptown just doesn't feel that way. So any way to make Jumptown more enticing, I think, is the only, let me try to phrase this correctly. I think Jumptown is the only successful content CIG has created that can exist in the game long term, where every other aspect of the current experience seems a placeholder. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100% agree there. I mean, the way Jumptown works, they can easily just when Pyro comes out, they can add the Jumptown event into a Pyro. Like, oh, there's a drug lab in Pyro starting up. Go do that one, and it's a universal game loop, and that can just move events and bring players to where they want.
It's simple, and it's successful if the incentive to do it is there. And the only incentive right now is money. And it just comes down to CIG if they want there to be incentive to do things in the game. And I don't think that that's where their priority is right now.
I would love to see it when reputation becomes more of a thing, when that's the
wanna-
progression that we want.
I
Bang,
had
and
a
LUC is a
shower
separate
moment,
one.
Nick. I had a shower moment where I was thinking about reputation in the shower, and I think it's completely fucked. I think I'm really nervous. I think maybe that's our topic for next week. So if you want to come on next week, let's talk reputation. I had a thought, and I'm scared that this is the worst possible direction. I don't know.
Well, I guess
You
we
want me
should
to
get
give
those
you
thoughts out when you can, when about reputation, so that we can actually bring them to CIG and be like, hey, can you make sure this doesn't happen?
Okay, let's do a quick little thing, but I want to do a full podcast on it next week, I think.
Okay.
What is the incentive for completing a reputation thing? Not in the current experience, but what would it be for you? So like finishing a reputation grind for a company or for an individual like a mission giver. What would your goal be? Or what would you like the rewards to look like for doing it, I should say?
Okay, so for a quick bullet point, not until next week's podcast, I would say items, ships, ship skins, and access to private locations.
Okay. All of those, except for the last one, are completely skippable. And that's what I'm afraid of.
Okay.
And you know how. They can be purchased on the website. Indirectly, but they can be purchased on the website.
Everything can be purchased on the website, which is why I feel money doesn't matter in game.
It's why I feel nothing matters in game. And unless you have the mentality that you have, where you're like, hey, I'm just going to go to Jump Town and fight. I enjoy fighting. Those are the only people that are going to enjoy this game.
100% agree with that. And that I feel like that's a course for correction.
Yep. I will listen. Everybody's saying all these things that make no sense in chat right now. Next podcast, I will debunk literally everything you're saying, because everyone's like, oh, but that's nonsense, and all the like. Well, what if you make an item that can't be purchased? There's plenty of items in game now that can't be purchased, but they can be purchased directly on the website with a credit card.
Even Alpha UEC.
Yep.
Anyways, well, I think that ends it for me. It also gave a good segue until next week's podcast. So
Yeah.
I'll be out of here. Have a good one.
Later, Nick. Be good, buddy. Thanks for your call, as always. I guess that might have been his first one. Oops. So, yeah, I feel like I've talked to Nick before plenty, but I think it might have just been through chat. But yeah, I think that's a little cue on what I want to talk about next week. I'm really worried about the future of the game. And I think part of it is because I feel like not everybody... I don't think CIG is very concerned about their funding model and the way it affects their game. And yeah, not in a long while. Okay. So that'll be next week. And I think that kind of goes along with what happened this week. I think there's a lot of disconnect and not really a concern about how we're going to be playing the game very much. And I feel like we're just playing this big advertising platform for other people to just buy the game, and then they play it, and it's just more advertising. It's just such a weird situation. But I enjoy Star Citizen for what it is. Now, again, I've said it on this podcast. I don't think I've had more fun playing the game than I ever have. I don't think my wife's here, so don't tell her if she's not and can't hear me. But like the other night, the first night of the wipe or the second night of the wipe, I grinded and played the game until 1 o'clock in the morning when I knew I had to wake up at 5 a.m. to be at work. I'm enjoying the game. So I'm not here just shitting on the game and hating it. The current experience is good enough for me to enjoy for a short period of time. And like when I get off of the podcast, like I kind of want to keep playing. Like I have that itch that I haven't had in forever. So the current experience isn't bad for me. It's the general nature of just like continuously making mistakes and not moving the experience forward quickly enough to be the game that I want Star Citizen to be. I have the I can create an experience in a little tiny vacuum for a little bit, but I can't experience the game that I want to play day in and day out for the next 5, 10, 15 years like I have other MMOs. And I want them to get there as soon as possible, and I want that to be their priority, and I think it is. I just think they're constantly trying to fix things. But all right, guys, that'll do it. I think we all kind of shared our opinions. I can mumble on forever. So that'll be the podcast. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Make sure you like and subscribe and comment if you're on YouTube, on Twitch. This will be up on YouTube in a little bit. And as always, you could join our Discord, discord.gg/SaltEMike, excuse me. And we will catch you next week for a discussion on Reputation and how I'm a little scared of what it might be.